Today I'm really excited to be here with Mr. Bobby Zagame of the Zagame Group. There's almost no car or highway you can drive on in Australia without seeing the logo, whether it's on the Audis or on the super luxury Rolls-Royce Phantoms or anything in between. The Zagame Group has serviced the entire car market and really made it into what it is today.
Thank you, Zalman.
We're going to talk to Bobby today about how his business has transitioned over the last few months and where the car industry in general is going into the future as well, and the learnings you've had over the COVID period.
I know we talked about, we're sick of hearing the word COVID, but it's, I think it's game changing. For us, when May was March, I should say, March, April hit, at the height of the infection pandemic, it was scary. I mean, it reminded me of 30 years ago. It reminded me of the recession that we had to have. And I can certainly clearly remember, and I was very fortunate, I was old enough to go through it at the front line and experience the challenges that you have in business. And, it was exactly the same this time around, if not worse. We basically shut the country, and us as a business, we had to make some hard decisions. And those decisions were really tough. And our business, in April in particular, it halved, and it's a known fact that the car sales, were down 50%. It actually felt like more than that, but certainly us as a business, we were down 50%, and it was like the world stopped. And the hard decisions based on finishing some staff and getting some major costs down, because going forward we just didn't know what it was going to look like. And if I sit now looking through, hopefully we're on the other side. But it has changed the way that I view the way that we should be running our business going forward.
When you say we're on the other side what? Of the pandemic or the recovery? Because there's two aspects here. Yes, the world just went through a very extreme pandemic and we're all scared. Mm-hmm. And we got over that, and now we're getting into reset and recovery. So what are you exactly referring to?
I don't know. And I say that because I don't know, we might have a dead cat bounce in respect of a recovery. Okay. So in other words, it's the end of financial year coming up, and, we've got certainly activities back in, and people seem to be starting to get out and spending. But on the other side, there's a lot of pain to come yet, and in respect of unemployment, and whether a lot of businesses open up again, whether the pandemic has a second wave in our country. So I can't answer that question. All I can say is, is sort of tell you what I see where we are today, and then just hope that things do start to continue to recover, and what we're feeling now is a recovery, and it continues, and the pandemic doesn't sort of have a second wave here. So.
In April, sales dropped by 50%. Yeah. What happened in May, and what's happening now in June in the industry?
It's been fascinating, because I think, I'm hoping that we're one of the luckier ones in business, and there's been some really tough or, sad businesses to be in right now, in particular travel. But, on the other side, there's often some winners, but, we've certainly seen an uplift, and I think it's purely on the back of people cannot travel. They can't do particularly in our market share, or our market is very much more at the upper end. And as of July, normally to pretty much through to the end of September, our customer base just goes away. And it's usually in Europe, or it's overseas, it's snow, it's summer in Europe, whatever. This year, it's not even a possibility, let alone on the agenda. So I think people are thinking local. They're thinking, okay, what can I do to have a lifestyle? And most things are involving a car, even to the point where public transport to commute, to go to work and so forth, is probably not the favoured thing right now. So all of a sudden the car has become a hell of a lot more important. It's a bit of isolation, and they're going to need a good car, hopefully, or a safe car to at least enjoy with their families, their holidays and things locally.
So Zagame has a volume business, which is the Audi dealerships and the Alfa Romeo dealerships. And then you have a high-end luxury dealerships. The average purchase price in the high end is $500,000.
Yeah, it'd be about that, yep.
Right, so the internet, there's no risk that the online is going to replace you, or Amazon is going to compete with you, is there?
Probably not, no. And it is a little bit more of it is a more specialised business, so the competition is far less, yeah.
No one's going to buy $1 million car online?
Yes. You know, yeah, we certainly find we sell a lot of cars online from interstate. They see everything online. They see the car. They like what they see, and as long as they know that we're reputable and they feel comfortable to deal with us, it'll be a totally untouched, you know, experience where we'll deliver the car to their door and they'll pay their money and they'll be very happy. We have a 100% strike rate. You know, what we're selling is the right product, and we do what we say.
So you're selling $500,000 cars. The culture, customer service, the training, the environment. How do you maintain that? You have one of the best reputations of keeping a really clean, tight business, and the employees that I know personally are very happy working here. Mm-hmm. They enjoy it. And the customers always leave with a smile on their face. Yeah. What's your secret? I
try to lead by example, I think, first and foremost. So I'm very active in the business, and I'd like to say that I'd lead our management and our staff on a day-to-day basis. You know, so always involved. Like to get involved in the dealing and the customers where they need me, and like to keep my face as the business. So I think that's first and foremost, and then the longevity of my staff. A lot of the staff have worked for me for a long time. So again, they've worked a long time with me because they understand the way that I think. They've built a relationship with the customer base as well. So the customer doesn't always have to, it's not about me, it's about our team. And hopefully every time they walk in, they're known, you know, and we deliver on service and give an experience that generally in the automotive industry isn't that consistent with.
Particularly in Asia, Dubai, now in the US, we're starting to see car showrooms going to shopping malls and high street strips. Here in Australia, we're starting to see that trend. Does that trend work? And would you ever adapt that trend for your Zagame?
Look, we've trialled pop-ups in shopping centres, and certainly over the last few years, and we know Tesla seem to be, you know, doing it as a fairly successful model.
Genesis, Mercedes
are all looking at it. Not totally convinced. I think it does build inquiry because people obviously see the product, but whether they do their purchasing decision in a shopping centre and actually transact, we haven't found as strong, I suppose, as it may appear. So it really is more about generating leads and getting inquiry, but then we then take the work back to the dealership and take the process on from there. At this stage, no, but I do believe that the model of the large dealerships is a thing of the past, and so smaller footprints and I suppose more convenient ways that the consumer can look at inquiring and looking at a product which makes sense in a shopping centre could be a way of the future.
Do you think it's worth my while to continue pitching street shops to you, or the answer is no? And is it going to stay no for much longer?
Look, it's amazing. It's amazing that what's really happened in strip shopping centres. We see it with Chapel Street and Bridge Road, etc. They've just died. I mean, the lease signs are everywhere, and it's a pretty sad state. So, but then there's other strips that are still working and that are very similar, but in different locations, but are actually working. And whether it's because of they've got the balance right of services as well as a little bit of retail. It's interesting. It really is interesting. So I don't know. I think there's going to be a couple of successful strips that'll still last for a while, but then the others will continue to, unless they go through a change in what they offer, they'll never come back.
Would you buy strip retail now and hold it for the long term?
Yes, potentially, because not knowing yet what the change will be, but something will give, because they're positioned in great locations. They're great property, which might be a kilometre or two from the city. Yeah. So they're really on the edge, and they're sitting in good social demographic, locations, where the consumers are buoyant, and they've got good spendable income. So yeah, but I don't know what the answer is to what they'll end up looking like in a few years' time, or having the answer to how they can be best utilised.
We're sitting in the Zagame dealership on Swan Street, Richmond. You have, I think, a full block of real estate which you have your car showrooms. Was that your intentions from the beginning, to have your showrooms in Richmond, or did this happen by accident?
Look, I was in Richmond originally in Church Street,
Yep.
so I sort of started there in the auto business, but and never thought I'd do any scale. So it was always meant to be just a small hobby type of thing. What it did do is introduced me to Richmond. It's a terrific city. It's the city next to the city, the main city, so it's the closest city to the city. It also links all the eastern suburbs and pretty much our wealth belt, if you like, of suburbs around it. So it's a really strategic, spot. Richmond's been pretty run down for a number of years, and I think, certainly in the last 5 to 10, Cremorne, Richmond's been discovered, and when I was around, it was pretty ordinary. But I thought, why wasn't this? Not unlike the shops you're talking about in these strips. Why isn't it really working here? Because there's the city, and there's South Yarra, and there's Hawthorn and Kew, and everybody comes through here. There's the sporting arenas. It's a great spot to work. It's a great spot to commute out from. And I'm a great believer in it, put it that way, yeah.
You've been running a very successful business for a very long time, been over 20 years now. What motivates you to keep going?
Again, in the last few months has been an interesting challenge because COVID really introduced changing, looking at your business and saying, okay, can it afford going forward based on the cost base? So, what we did is took out a lot of the excess, if you like, and a lot of the people that you rely on, I suppose, to manage your business, and put me back in the driver's seat. So I found that, getting back into the driver's seat was, for me, a really important thing of steering the business again and taking control and leading my troops and getting your hands dirty again. And I think that's really important. So that's been driving me again, and looking at new ways to making sure that we can survive, succeed, and look longer into the future, and look at new ways. Whereas if you're surrounded by people that are generally doing that for you, you do tend to take a bit more of a back seat and let it steer itself, and it doesn't always go in the direction you want it to go. So I think, as I say, being back in, driving it myself, has got me out of bed earlier again and focused, and I'm enjoying it.
Zagame is both a landlord and a tenant. What's the relationship of landlord-tenant going forward, and how's your experience been over the last few months when it comes to rental abatements and deferments and all that sort of stuff?
It's been again interesting, but again it goes back to no different to the car business and our customers. It's been relationship. So if I look at the tenants that I've got a really good relationship with, and have always been what I say, loyal to me. So in other words, their rent's always paid on time. We have a great relationship. They've got a problem with the building, I make sure it's fixed. They're always paying their rent because there's just they've been a terrific tenant over a longer period. I've been on the front foot with those sorts of guys and said, look, we don't know what the next few months is going to give. I'll either give them a rent reduction or a no rent period for a couple of months, just to see them through, so that knowing that they're under pressure as well, and being able to do that as a landlord. So I found that it's only made that relationship stronger, because they're good businesses. They're going to stay there. They want to continue on, but it's about working together and getting through to the other side. So I think that's really been an interesting exercise. I've had
Case by case?
It's case by case.
There's no one shoe
No,
fits all.
no, case by case. And then there's been some that have, particularly probably the big multinationals that have been said, oh yeah, we're just not going to pay rent for 6 months, and when they've had no right to do that, well then we've been a little bit sterner and said, well, why? I mean, we've got our commitments just like you have, and sort of push back and sort of again come to a compromise. But it purely has been about sitting down and trying to work with case by case, getting a solution, and what I think is a fair outcome for both parties, not for the short term, but for the longer term.
If you could rewind the clock by 20 years, and you're now back to being 15 years old, what would you do?
Again, I'd say, stick to basics. So when you started when you were 15, or then you were 18, you got a job, or you got out there and you were happy to do the things that you didn't normally, or that you wouldn't do now, go back.
Like what?
It might be if you're in a car business, you might have started car washing, so get involved in the people on the mechanical side, or in real estate, get involved with your landlord tenant situations, where a lot of whether it be an agent, but it's probably step back and let the younger team getting through and doing a lot of the groundwork. Whereas when times are tough, you just got to get back in there and you do it yourself. So I don't think there is any magic formula to success other than hard work, commitment, time, and focus. Purely focus, and making sure that you're doing the work before, leading by example rather than letting somebody else do it in the good times where you become fat and you let other people do things that you should be doing potentially yourself. So keep grounded, communicate with people. Don't think you're any better than anybody else, and just focus on what you need to do rather than looking at the problems and what you can't deal with, the outside influences you can't deal with. Just do the things that you can influence. Yeah.
And the key to a good relationship?
Communication. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just
Continuous
just communicate. Yeah, I think silence is a killer. And even to the point of emails. Get on the phone, go and visit, go and knock on doors, or go and see your tenant or your landlord and communicate. Absolutely, be on the front foot.
Zagame has a very big dealership outside the airport. What was the logic behind that, and how's that performing now that no one's using the airport?
A really interesting scenario there, because we were looking for a logistics centre. So previously our logistics were done through the south in Moorabbin, and because we've got dealerships from Mornington through to Brighton, through to the city, so the south sort of was partially working. It was working for the south dealerships, but it wasn't working for the more central sites, which are more volume for us. So we started looking for a logistics centre, which of course then the Age facility in Tullamarine was sitting there, and I can remember going to the airport and driving past, and it said for sale, and it sat there for some time. And I often thought, geez, that'd be a pretty impressive site to own. I don't know what I'd quite do with it, but it would make a great logistics centre, but they probably want 100 million for it, right? So anyway, it kept on going past it. It's still for sale. It was for sale for some time, and then somebody gave me a call and said, look, potentially this site could be going for under 20 mil. So, and it's common knowledge of what we ended up buying it for. So I had a look at it, and it was a pretty daunting site when you do walk through it, and it was dilapidated. They sort of left it in a pretty ordinary state. The Age, they took all the machinery out. It was dirty. There was pigeons everywhere, and it wasn't beautiful. But I thought, geez, I know what I could do with this. This will make a great logistics centre. And as I said, we were looking to move from the south. So anyway, we made an offer. It was unconditional at the time, and history's now past, but we're now the owner of it, and converted it into our, first of all, we did all our stock holdings there, which is how we use it now. With stock holding, we do all that pre-delivery of all our cars there, so it probably holds about 700 cars in stock there. Plus then we will do all our parts distribution from there, so we have a large parts distribution business. And then we recently introduced panel work, so we do body repairs there, so a very large, again, setup that we've utilised out of the building. And then recently we've started sales just by appointment only, and so you can't just rock up there. You've got to, again, it's all online, so you see a car, you like it, you make an appointment to come and see it. And that's proven to be a great success, really good. So, which again, we talk about how do we look going forward into the future of sales and retail. Maybe there is a different model there for us, that you have one-stop big location where you have a lot of stock, purely online, so they can't necessarily just come and rock up and see what they like, come and test drive, view it in a good environment, and do deals. And that seems to be working for us right now as a new approach to sales. And it requires less staff, which is also good. And it does, and our strike rate is probably 80%, because if they make the effort to make the appointment to come out and see the car, generally our strike rate is much, much higher, closing ratio.